So hi everyone. This is no different from some of the other videos I've done. Instead, this is going to be like I guess like a garden design slash planning video, and it's going to be the first part of a series because I want to show you guys this plan on paper and then how I actually do it in person and how it changes and so forth. So part one is the paper plan. So this is actually a bed that's going to be in my grandmother's yard. That yard is relatively blank. It's a blank slate. One of the things that we're going to be doing is potentially digging in a pond. So there's going to be a lot of excess soil. What my plan to do with that though is to create a berm. And what a berm is just a raised piece of land. And nurseries like Plants Delight in North Carolina have really brought up the popularity in berm gardening. It increases surface area, which allows you to plant more stuff, which me with my addiction is very important. And it also allows you to experiment a little bit more with stuff that might not be appropriate for your zone or for your soil conditions. And here, my grandmother lives in the lower valley in El Paso, and there's a lot of clay soil, so raising it up slightly will help with that drainage. So we'll see what happens there. So the plan is, usually when I work on any garden, including my own, I like to create little micro habitats. So I could emphasize certain characteristics or increase the amount of diversity of plant material that I'm able to grow. So like this berm right here is going to consist of mostly sun-loving plants and a few trees that have a loose canopy. So we'll start with the trees first. We have at the tip of the berm, Vitex negrundo var heterophylla. It's a Vitex tree. The leaves kind of look like marijuana, and I'll attach a picture of most of the plants that we're going to discuss up on the top corner. This one could be, depending on where you're living, it could be kind of weedy, and I think they have classified as an invasive, specifically on the eastern United States. In the Southwest, there hasn't been any issues with it yet. So before you go buying it or growing it from seed, look up your local listings of invasives because you don't want to add to the problem. The next plant is a European one, and it's Erica arbora. Ericas are heathers, and most of the heathers are actually medium-sized shrubs to creeping shrublets. This one actually grows into a tree, hence the name arbora, arborea. It has white flowers in mid to late winter, early spring. And the leaves are like pine needles, which I thought it's pretty cool. It's like having a conifer without having a conifer. And the flowers will hopefully attract a lot of the early season pollinators. Probably will mostly be just honeybees. The plan with this one is that it wants to grow more as a shrub, so as it gets older, I'm going to lift up the skirt, cut off all the lower limbs, and expose the trunk. And the trunk on these guys is pretty cool. It looks like a lot of conifers do. It has peeling, rough bark. And it's an evergreen. The Vitex is deciduous. And the Vitex is from, I believe it's from Asia, India. The Erica is from the Mediterranean. Now the next tree, and this one is going to be hard for me to get a hold of. So the first two I'm actually going to be growing from seed. This one right here is a native to North America. It looks like a poiseta on steroids. And it's called Pygnalia bracteata. I don't know any sources for it, but I'm going to keep an eye out. And it's rare in nature and pretty rare in cultivation. There's been a couple selections for it too, because this is one of those trees that needs to reach a certain size / age to start producing bracts. So there's been a lot of selective selection done for individuals who will flower at a younger age and hopefully stay at a smaller size. And unfortunately, this one's a short-lived tree, so it'll probably be like 10-15 years, but hopefully it produces seed and I could keep it going that way. And it's going to be at the highest point of this mound, and we'll go over how this mound's is going to be, like what points are going to be the lowest and which points are going to be the highest. The last major tree is going to be a magnolia. At first I wanted to put an evergreen magnolia, specifically Magnolia grandiflora, but I thought that would produce too heavy of a shade. So instead I'm going to go for one of the deciduous magnolias and hopefully get my hands on one of the yellow ones like Yellow Canary or Elizabeth from cutting and give that a go. Now, before we move forward to discuss some of the other plants that are going to be put into this bed, let's go over how this bed's actually going to be laid out in terms of its topography. So the midsection will be the highest point, and at this right here where the trunk of the magnolia will be, it will start to slope back down. There's going to be a walkway right here. So it's going to gently slope there, and it'll slope right here with this side facing towards there's a patio being the lowest side. And on this side, it will be slightly raised. Same thing with this part will slope downwards here, and it end up level with the ground. So the next portion will be to talk about some of the shrubs that are going to be here. And all the shrubs I have labeled so far are, I think the biggest one's only going to get like 4 to 5 feet, and it has a very loose habit. Everyone else is a pretty more so shrublets than true shrubs, and that's again just to keep this area having an open look, more xeric than woodlandy. So one of the first plants, and all the plants I'm about to name going forward, except for one, are from the North American Rock Garden Society Seed Exchange. And hopefully I got lucky and I did get these plants during that exchange so I could get them growing. This first one is a North American native. I've never heard of it before, but it looks really cool. It's Anthogilla glorosa, has pale pink flowers, and it seems to have more growing habits similar to Acinthocanthus quadriflorus var. Whittii, or the Mexican hummingbird bush or flame bush. They seem very similar, and at first I thought, oh, it's probably in the same genus, and no, it's not. So I'm excited for that one. The next one is going to be right here, and this again will be a little bit below the highest point of the berm. This is Ribes rosili. Ribes are really cool. They produce fruit, which is going to attract birds. It is kind of a prickly shrub, and during wintertime, those prickles will actually be red and provide interest, where many of the other plants will not be active. It produces nibble flowers, which I'm hoping will attract a bunch of the pollinators, and then again, the birds will come and feed off of the fruit. Then, right here is the one plant that is not from the seed exchange, but I'm going to grow from a cutting. It's a Texas rain sage, Leucophyllum levigata, summer snow. It has a very open habit. This one and the ribes that we discussed earlier are probably going to be the two biggest shrubs. Summer snow has white flowers, while the typical species has pale purple flowers. So really nice one, scented. A lot of the native bees like it, and it flowers later on in the season, versus the ribes is a spring flower, and the Anthogilla glorosa is like a late spring, early summer flower. Now the next shrub right here is it is experimental because it's tender. It's from Australia. It's called Felice fruticosa. A lot of the members of this genus are used as annual bedding plants, but this one's actually shrubby, and it has the typical flower of the genus Felices. They're daisies, so think typical daisy flower, but purple to blue, and this one's more on the blue side of things. So I'm hoping it makes it, and I'm going to have it facing this way, which is west, so it gets the most sun, and hopefully during wintertime the most warmth, so that I could overwinter correctly. I'm hoping the magnolia too will provide some shelter for it. Now the last shrub here is Encilia californica. This genus is really cool. It's another daisy member. think of it as like a woody-ish sunflower. And this one has green leaves. There's some members in this genus that have silvery leaves, but this one's more on the green side of things. Really nice. I've always been interested in these guys just because any woody sunflower member is freaking awesome. All the other plants with these numbers represent are perennials, and some of these perennials are actually laid out in drifts. So like 4 and 41. 4 is Astromelia negrutu, and that one's a South Cedar. So I want to actually plant several individuals here. Everyone else that is not in a drift is planted as a single individual or group of individuals as a clump. And all these are actually coming from the North American Rock Garden Society Seed Exchange, hopefully. And I could get them growing soon. There's going to be a ton of cool stuff. Here's the list. A lot of these plants are Mediterranean natives, and a lot of them I wasn't expecting there are either yellow flowering or purple. So that wasn't intentional. I was just going through it and like, oh, okay, that plant will do good in that type of spot. And I guess subconsciously I selected for that. As you could tell, there's a lot of space left on the berm. And of course, this isn't drawn to scale, so things will probably end up a lot more closer together. But there's a lot of space on the berm because, like any real gardener knows, there's always room for more plants. So I based the plants that I laid out so far on the berm based on how I would think they would look good together. And also considering if it's on the western side, if it's more tender, put it on the western side versus put it facing east if it's more hardy. So again, I could hopefully have better results with overwintering. But yeah, that's the beginning of this design. Once I get the seeds, there'll be a part 2 to this video where we'll talk about like the actual perennials, and I'll include pictures of them too, and talk about their growing habits. And then part 3 will be me actually sowing them, or maybe that might just be part 2. I don't know yet. And then finally, hopefully, part 3 will be taking place by late spring when we're digging in the pond and we actually start building the berm, with part 4 with the first of these plantings, probably of the perennials, taking place at the midsummer, late summer. And then boom, we'll continue the series as this design keeps on going, and we'll probably start next year with this berm again, but filling in the rest of the gaps with next year's seed exchange, or talk about what's changed and stuff. So thank you for watching, and have a good night.